Welcome back to another video. This is a continuation of my plan to show off the miniatures that I have painted in the last several years. Whereas the last video was on my 10mm American War of Independence figures, this is on my 6mm Ancients, more specifically Rome versus Carthage. So out here in front of me we have my 6mm Carthaginian army laid out in front of us. And this figure is about 99% rapier models and about 1% Bacchus figures. The Roman army, which I'll show you in a second, is a little bit more diverse in manufacturers, but here we have laid out in front of us Carthage. Now these are based on about 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch just MDF bases for the Age of Hannibal rule set, which you can find the details at the Little Wars TV website. It's actually a really neat game. I really like it. I enjoy the resources that they have there and the battle reports on their YouTube channel. Now, here laid out in front of us, I guess we'll start at the beginning. We have our Skirmishers. Now these Skirmishers here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 bases of Numidians. And each one of these bases is around 500 men. So in total we have 6 bases, which equates to about 3,000 skirmishers. If we get up close, hopefully it'll let me. You know, they're all the single pose, but they're actually fairly good figures. Like, they're not bad. I quite enjoyed painting them. One of the problems with these figures, though, from Rapier is that there's a little bit too much flash on them. There's a lot of cleanup work. So there's the Numidians, and here's the Punic Skirmishers here. Those little shield, hand-drawn shield things were easier than it seems. They weren't that bad. Over here on the, I guess, my left flank is the Carthaginian Elephants. I mean, you can't have a Carthaginian army without some elephants. And he's got a... Let me just fix his thing. Oh, I broke that off. Let me just use a different one. But anyway, here's the Carthaginian Elephants. Put some little leftover Numidian skirmishers there just to fill out the base. Here we have the Gauls. There's 5 bases of Gauls. Now each one of these bases is 1,000 men. So there's 5,000 Gauls, or Celts, whichever you want, Germanics, whatever. Mix of spear and sword in there. A lot easier to paint than what you might think. Now we have 6 bases of Spanish. So 6,000 Spanish. They took a little bit longer, but still fairly easy. And in the back row here we have the, how many is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 bases of Libyan hoplites. Doing the shields on these took a little while, but these are really nice figures. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with these figures. I actually quite enjoyed them from Rapier. You know, they look good. Let's turn them around here. Took a little while to paint the linen cuirass, but it was worth the effort, I think. And in the back we have the 5,000 Hannibal African veterans with the more distinctive scutum shields. Sorry for the paint on the hands there. I was priming again this morning. All I seem to ever do is prime or make videos. So that's them. That's all the infantry. If we move over here, we have the Numidian Cavalry. And these are the same as the skirmishers. They're 500 men to a square, a base, essentially. You know, I could have ink washed the horses, but I wanted to play I wanted to play with the figures. So there's 2,000, so 4 bases, and there is also 1,000, so 2 bases of Spanish cavalry. It's pretty easy to paint them, you know, the Spanish and the Gauls. You just do I would lay out several strips on on lollipop sticks, and I would put a whole row of red, green, blue, yellow, other colors, and then I'd paint them all. And then I would just, when I was clipping them, I would just make sure that the bases had a couple of each on it. So over here we have the Punic Cavalry. Now, one thing about the Rapier's models, when it comes to the cavalry models, is the cavalry models are tiny compared to what you think they should be. Like an infantry figure and a cavalry horse. Let's see if I can do this properly. Sorry for the bad cameramanship here. But there's really... Wow, terrible. The horses are not very big. That was my main point. Is the horses are not very big, and therefore looks kind of silly. But on bases on their own, not beside an infantry figure, you can't really tell. But if you put them next to a hoplite unit, you can see the difference in size. But out there on their own, on the flank, who really notices? So that is the Carthaginians. So essentially you have 5,000 African veterans, 7,000 Libyan hoplites, you have 5,000 Gauls, you have 6,000 Spanish, you have some 2,500 Punic horse, 2,000 Numidian horse, 1,000 Spanish, a few thousand skirmishers, and some elephants. You know, it's not a bad force. And it performs reasonably well. And reasonably well because it goes up against this, which is a Roman army made up of 4 legions. 2 red legions are the Romans, the physical Roman citizens, and the yellow and the white are allied legions. Now, there's nothing to stop me from saying that those are all Roman legions. I just decided to make them a different color so I could tell who they were. Plus, in this period, I think they weren't, all the legions didn't have red. I think only a couple of them had red and the rest of them had various colors, from what I know, but that's just my opinion. So if we start off here at the very beginning, we have the velites. These are also rapier figures. They all come with the wolf's head, which wouldn't be really historical, but it's fine. You know, you take a look at them there. And then we come on to the most exciting part, which is the Legionaries. Now, these are all the Legionaries are also rapier figures. And they come in 3 different styles, as you can probably see here. They come in basically unarmored or barely armored figures. They have the little square chest piece there. They come with mail, which would be your principes or principes. And then they come with spear and shield and mail, which would be your triarii. Now, each legion has 2 hastati units, so 2,000 hastati. It has 2 principe units, so 2,000 principe, and 1 unit of triarii. Historically, they would have, instead of being a 1 square, so a 1 unit of 1,000, it would be 2 units of 500. But for this game and for this army, I chose just a 1 base. So that's 5,000 men. But for the bases, I decided to make them all a little more unique. And I'll get closer here so you can see. Zoom in, there we go. For the hastati, I decided to make their uniforms different colored. So blue, white, yellow. And I also decided to, kind of when I was laying them out on the base, was to not try on purpose to make them super straight lined. They're kind of, if it would zoom in for me. Oh, they look pretty straight, but when you come next to the principes, you'll see I tried my hardest to make the principes a little straighter. So they're a little bit more defined in rows. It's probably not the most noticeable, but here, this one here is pretty good. I'll put the allied units together. So you can see there what I was trying to do. I was trying to make the principes here on the left, I was trying to make them in straighter rows to make them seem like they were more professional, and the hastati to be in sort of like they're still in rows, but more like a blob. And that was done on purpose. And then we have let me just put these guys back where I found them. Somewhere here. There, and there. Then we have the triarii, which is Sorry, I dropped it. But there we go. It's in a fairly straight lines. The veterans. And there is the 1 Legion, the 2nd Legion, 3rd Legion, 4th Legion with their velites out front. And we have the equites over here for both of the Roman legions. They would have noble cavalry. Now they suffer from the same rapier problem with cavalry, where the rapier cavalry is noticeably smaller than it should be. But there's 4 bases of them. And that's where the rapier figures come to a close. Now we move on to the Italian or Greek Italian city-states. So here we have 3 bases of allied Italian or Latin figures. And these are all Bacchus figures. And these are beautiful figures. For such a small scale, there's so much character in these figures. I love these things. It was actually a lot easier to spend more time on these than, let's say, on these, because these figures just have so much character in them. It was a pleasure to paint these figures. These are Bacchus. I think if you've looked up 6mm figures before, you know who Bacchus is. And here's the Italian medium cavalry. Again, Bacchus. Again, beautiful figures. And super easy to paint, and worthwhile to pick out the extra details on them and make their shield designs look a little bit different. But there's 4 bases of them, and that is the Roman army. So there we go. When it comes to trooped amounts or base amounts, there's physically more bases of Romans than there is of Carthaginians, but the Carthaginians have a decidedly more varied type of unit than the Romans, which is, I guess, makes sense. And on the battlefield, it's tight. It's let me just stand up here so I can get them all in view. On the battlefield, it's pretty impressive. You can have a nice battle on a table there. But in the game Age of Hannibal, the Carthaginians perform fairly well, and the Romans perform equally well, which is why I like the rules. There's no decidedly Hannibal with half the size army defeats the larger Roman army. Anyway, thanks for tuning into this video. I'm just going to give it a break here for a minute and lay out the next force, which will be probably my World War I figures. Anyway, see you in the next video. Thanks.